Hi, my name is Natalie and welcome to my channel Bargello-a-GoGo. Today I'm going to be showing you how to join the lampshade from the Lava Lampshade Kit that's available on my website. So first of all, you'll have two panels here that would have been completed in exactly the same way as per the chart. The only difference being is that the edges on here, so you've got on each side you've got two spare squares, as you can see here, on this one and this one, because when it's turned into the lamp, they will be on the top and the bottom as per the direction of how the pattern will go. And as you can also see, the difference you have on these panels is you'll have one lot of the squares on the bottom here on one of them, and you've got two on the bottom of the other one on the same edge, and then you've got the opposites on the top up here. So on this one you've got the two squares, and then you've got the one square here, and that's because when you go to join them, the double squares will underlap the one square here when you join it, when you sew it, and then again that will follow around when you get to the other side and you join that one as well. So first of all, what we do is we're going to match the bottom of the patterns so they're together. So how it would have started on there, these bottom ones here, we're just going to turn that round and we're going to pop that on there. So you're going to have that one overlapping that one there. And for this side I'm going to be using the cream shade of the Appleton's wool. That's the dominant sort of colour here on the pattern at the bottom. So I'm just going to sew using that thread here. So I'm just going to cut the length of this, just over an arm's length, and I'm just going to get my scissors. So I've threaded a needle here with the cream tapestry wool, and what we're going to do is just start at the top here. So you're going to overlap the single squares over the double squares, and you're going to make sure that the single lot of the squares there align with the second squares in here. Now before I completely do that, so what I'm going to do is just weave this tapestry wool just into the back of the matching colour thread, just at the top corner there. I'm just going to pull that through. You don't need to knot it or anything like that, it will stay secure within it. And just lightly pull it, you just don't pull that too hard when you're going to do the join. So once you've threaded this tapestry wool through some of your matching stitches on the back, you're going to, on this one, go into the second square, two squares down. We're not going to be sewing into these top squares here, so you're going to go second one down, and then you're going to join it through the stitch here. So not the actual single square, but the square where the stitch is, and you're going to go back through there like you would when you're sewing the Bargello stitches when they share a square. You're going to share a square again, so you're going to miss this first square, but on the underside you've got the second square, or the first square on the edge you've come through before going into that one, into this one here on the second sheet. You're just going to make sure you don't pull it too tight, because you don't want to pull the stitching out of the back. So you would have just pulled that through that stitch there, the tapestry wool, and then what you're going to do is, again, you're not going to go into the actual spare square, you're going to go over it. So what you're going to do is put your needle through into this square where the other stitch is. Again, you're sharing the square with the previous stitch, you can see there. You're just going to pull that through, and you've got your one sort of whip stitch over the edge there. And then what you're going to do, if I turn it to the underside, you're going to, again, you're going to go the next square down, just into that first square on the edge and pop your needle through there. And then you're going to go back into the next square down into the next stitch where there's a previous stitch made. So you're just, and again, you're just going to pull that through. So you're just making sure that's all kept consistently tight there. And you're just going to repeat this process of going back through a square down back into where the previous stitch was. So you're just going to continue to do that, making sure you keep the stitches nice and tight as you go. So as you can see, I've done a few stitches here already. I'm just pulling through. Now, if you're finding this is kind of going everywhere and your thread is catching on the bottom there, something I would recommend when you're doing this whip stitch edging is to get like a clip, like a bulldog clip. If you purchase one of the kits from my shop, then you'll get one of those anyway with the pattern. That's how they're sort of attached on the booklet for the pattern that I provide. So you just literally pop that, you can see, just roughly match it at the bottom there, and then just pop that on, and that just keeps it nice and secure for you whilst you're sewing that part together. And then obviously you can remove it as you get further down, but it just keeps it a bit more secure to help with your sewing. And again, you just got to make sure here that you're going into that spare square as you pop your needle back into that other stitch as well there, and you just pop your needle through. And again, then you just go into the next one here on that part and pop your needle in there. So it's not the actual spare square, it's the one right into the stitch that you're going into. And again, you just pop your needle through, and then you'll be getting this sort of join at the back where the stitches have been going through these squares here. And you'll just continue to do that until you get to the last two squares, and then so you'll continue down. So another thing I wanted to show you as I'm working through this, sometimes when you cut your length of tapestry wool, it's not always long enough, for instance, for this project to go all the way down. Now you could do it really long, but I find with tapestry wool, once it keeps going through the plastic canvas, it can get quite thin, and it'll be breaking, and it won't be as full around this edge, and you really want that fullness of the stitches if you can around the edging. So with mine, it's only gone to this part of the lampshade here. So I'm just going to quickly show you what I would do if that happens and you've run out of thread, or it's getting too thin, the long piece, it's not nice fullness of stitches anymore. So I just what I do is I literally just turn that over. So you can see I've got a decent sort of bit of length there, but as you can see there, it can start to get a bit thin as well. It can end up doing that through the tapestry wool as well, further down, like I said, when it's going through this lots and lots. So what I would do is just get my tapestry needle, and I just literally thread through some of the stitches that I've done the whip stitch edging on the back of the work, and then I just pull my needle through, and I'm just going to cut off this thread here as close to the stitching as I can, so it's hopefully neat and doesn't show through. And then what you're going to do is just get another length of this tapestry wool, and you're just going to pull another arm's length of this that you require. And you're just going to thread your needle. So what you're going to do is, once with your threaded tapestry wool on your needle, you're going to just go back through where you finished your last stitches, and you want to get back to a starting point where you're going to be on the whip stitch edging again. So you're just going to pop your needle through. Again, you don't need to knot this, you're just going to gently pull that through, some of the stitching already on there, and then you're just going to turn this work back over. Just going to again go into the next square down on the back on here and doing your whip stitch edging. So you shouldn't see a join. It should all just go through fine, and it should just look continuous as you stitch that. If you do it that way, on that method, it should look, as you can see, it's just going to go through fine. So you're just, again, on the back of the work, you're just making sure you catch that square underneath where you've got the 2 squares on the join, and you just pull your needle through. And then you just continue to sew back down as yours previously. And like I said, you can't see that there's a join there. It looks continuous on the outside here as you're going through. And then you just continue down, as I said earlier in the video, to the point where you've got the 2 squares left. So when you get to your last stitch here, what you then need to do is just pop your needle through. So you've got, like I said, the 2 squares free here. And then you're just going to do what I showed earlier when you was adding in a new piece of tapestry wool. You're just going to pop your needle through the previously worked whip stitches at the back, and then pull your needle through. And then you're just going to secure off. And that's your first whip stitch edge complete. So next you're just going to repeat that for the other side. And on this side, because the yellow is the more dominant colour on the edging here, I'm going to actually do this particular edging in the yellow shade. And you're just going to join it again. It's a bit more circular now, so you're just going to join that edge. You're just going to pop your single square over the double squares. And again, if you're struggling with this to start it, I would highly recommend like a bulldog clip here, and just pop that. Once you've roughly matched it, just pop that there just to secure it, because it's plastic canvas, it's gonna have a tendency to want to sort of, you know, fold back on itself. The memory of it is it's not going to want to just stay in a circle like that necessarily at the beginning until you start sewing your stitches. So again, it just gives you that extra sort of hand-in effect or support whilst you're starting your stitches. And you're just going to start the 2 stitches down and do the same that you did for this side here on those. So I've now done the whip stitch edging on the other centre. So you've got them both whip stitched on the edges to make it into this cylinder shape. Now what you next need to do is attach the lampshade components to the edges. And again, what we're going to be doing is just whip stitching around these top edges here. So I'm going to use this orange tapestry wool here to do the whip stitch edging on my lampshade design. So first of all, I'm just going to go into the top here, and I'm just going to, again, just where the previous whip stitch edging was, I'm just going to pull my thread through some of the stitches there. Again, I don't need to knot it, I'm just going to pull that through lightly. And then I'm just going to go into the first stitch here. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull these Bargello stitches previously worked back. So to get the neatest finish possible, I want to actually still go into those stitches, that square worked with the stitches. So I just slide them out the way so I can do that. And I'm just going to pull that through. And what I now need to do is make sure I put this circle part of the components from the lampshade into the circle, and I'm going to sew round it as I go round. So we're just going to go into the first stitch over here. So I'm just going to wrap that round here, and I'm just going to put my needle back through, just again in these lines where the previous stitches were, but just move them out the way of my nail there. And then I'm just going to pull that through and over. And again, I'm going to go back through there and pull that through. You might think it's a bit thin there on the joint, but we're going to double stitch that, get back to that and finish it just to secure that edge in there. And you're just going to continue like doing this, doing the whip stitch edging and just pulling those threads tight to secure. Oh, you sort of want it sitting in the top here like that. As you go over and do this whip stitch edging, you want that sitting just inside so it's not on show. You just hold it there with your fingers as you sew around on there. Again, just pulling these previous Bargello stitches just out the way of the work so you can get your needle back into those previously worked squares and just pull that over. So what I do when I get to the join, I actually go into the same stitch 3 times. So this is the 3rd time I'm going into this now, and that's just so that you get a nice thick coverage on that join there with the plastic canvas where it laps over. It just gives it a nice thick coverage as you're going through, and then you can go into the next stitch like I'm doing here. And like I said, I've got 3 wraps around that one, and you can just fluff them out with your nail, your thumbnail, and it just gives it that nice coverage, and then you can just continue round and do the same at the other join as well. So on the other side, I'm using the burgundy shade from this pattern to do the whip stitch edging, and on here I just wanted to quickly show you when you've got these prongs here, you just literally sew round them. So you just whip stitch into, as you've been doing before, you just whip stitch around, and then what you do is you just literally go over, just over the top of it like this. So just go the other side of that sort of that prong there, and then you just continue sewing around and doing your whip stitch edging on here. You just continue round and you just go all the way round again, and then you've just joined those, you've just sewn around those basically. And here is your finished lampshade. So you've got all the whip stitch edging and the whip stitch edging on the sides, and also your lampshade part there where you can attach it to the lampshade base, and that's all done. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video tutorial. There is a link in the description below if you'd like to find out more information about the Groovy Lava Lampshade Kit. And once again, thank you for watching.